So, Rebecca, one of the things that I think is really interesting and novel about like CPU level security is there's the ability to kind of hide things from the operating system and or hide things from portions of the operating system. What are some of the use cases around the secure enclave in the Intel CPUs? And let's start from there.
I think what's fascinating, what's awesome, what's going to be very, very cool when Ice Lake launches is when you actually can have an enclave that is covering terabytes of memory. Right?
Oh,
You're just in a totally different domain space in terms of what you actually can accomplish and what kinds of applications can be unlocked. And so security, privacy preserving AI, like you now have enough actual domain space you could think about keeping that completely secured. Are the performance trade-offs going to be worth it? Are we going to see the user demand to go there? It all depends on how much people value the privacy of their data, how much people think they have a right to have private data. And I think there are industries that are regulated that absolutely are already there. And I think there are places and companies that are advertising in that domain space that we may see having a lot more requests for that.
so it's interesting, and I think that's a jump that I hadn't really made in my mind. That it's a lot of what we've done with enclaves in the past has been keys, small pieces of data. So is that one of the big changes that we're seeing? Is we can now store that much more in the enclaves? Is that
Yeah.
like the big shift here?
Yeah, protect your data at rest when it's actually being stored, protect it in flight, right? Any of these options become something that you can extend and actually manage. So having a methodology that is consistent. I think there's, again, I will be surprised because I am always surprised whenever you put a platform out there, what you think is going to be done with it. The world
Yep.
is full of incredibly creative and imaginative software engineers that do so much with our hardware. So I am very excited about it, but those are certainly the kinds of domain spaces that are excited and thinking about what secure enclaves can do for confidential computing at scale.
And maybe we can drill down a little bit into the enclave concept. I'm assuming that it's not just one big enclave that you just throw everything into. I assume there's some more to it than that.
Yes.
Maybe you can educate me on that as well.
No, we do have total memory encryption, right? You can just choose to encrypt the whole thing. And there are certainly industries who want to look at that. That's also an Ice Lake feature. And there are aspects and things that you can do from the supply chain up that are coming in Ice Lake as well. So Ice Lake is, very much a product about security built and thought around security, like platform firmware resilience. But when we really think about enclaves, it is being able to slice up that data and use it differently for multiple users, multiple applications, can have a different allocated domain. Now, you can also nest that with something like the resource director technology to try and make sure you have both isolated who gets access to a enclave and that they are truly encrypted, managed in your own key set, et cetera. So there's a lot of solutions that exist for either isolation or encryption, but not necessarily ones that have come together to say this user is allowed to have access to this secure enclave. And then I think the other thing that is important when you're thinking about your solutions in this domain space is the amount of research that has happened, right? We were discussing this a little bit earlier that you don't hear a lot about chip level security until it gets breached, right? So there's something about having many years of SGX being available to talk through. People have done the work, people have done work to try and break this. And so, that can mean that it's broken in different ways. It also means it's known what the exploits could be, how you can address them, how you can move forward. And so, hard, as we all know in this industry, security is merely about creating a more difficult attack surface, right?
Yes.
defense in depth. So
Yep.
you've got to do your level best. But I really am excited, I think, about being able to explore and have larger enclave sizes, still being able to support multiple users within domain space with isolation because it is part of the overall scalable platform, and being able to look at, years of research that have already happened on this technology. So gosh darn it, we think it's more secure than others.
I I think there's a lot to be said for it has been well explored. We think so much around security of, like what's the newest, what's the latest and the greatest, and we don't really think enough around there's a history here, there's a pattern, there's a foundation that we've built upon, and I think there's a lot of value in that SGX has been around, and we've seen what some of those exploits are, and it sounds like that Intel has put a lot of work into dealing with those, and there's a lot of credibility that comes along with that. So that's really cool. I'm really excited to see, like what you said, like what we're going to see with SGX going forward. Just again, myself, I'm switching from this. I'm going to store small pieces of data in there, just keys, and just store, entire data sets that I'm processing, that maybe I'm keeping separate from other users in a way that's enforced at a level that doesn't matter if you're able to trick user space into letting you into another user. It's still being enforced at a hardware level, which is it's a different place than we've operated in the past.
Yeah. And it's a different layer that you can secure. And I think it's just, every year we're going to keep trying to figure out, because bad actors continue to exist.
Yes.
They aren't getting any more sophisticated. They just have a domain space to partner around and learn from each other. And they too build on top of each other. So we just have to keep researching together, and working hard to actually deliver solutions that will meet the demands of our users. I think we will find, even as we come here, there will be another layer that in our next generation we want to bring out. And that's just the nature of the game.
Keep getting better, keep building on what we've done before.
Yeah.
I do have one quick question that I'm assuming that there needs to be some level of operating support for this.
Yeah.
So what's the operating support look like? Operating system support look like for SGX with Ice Lake?
Yeah. I mean, there is a guest OS modification that is going to be required to be able to enable it. So it's not even just host OS that has to do work. I mean, guest OS side is going to have to do some work to make sure that they are enabling. So I do think that will be a little bit more of a you want to work on this together. And that's probably what will be a little bit slower in which industries adopt immediately. Generally, when a cloud service provider, any kind of a hyperscaler, has control of the environment, they can roll it out very easily. When it requires an end user to say, oh, I have to wait and get to this version of Ubuntu, and I have to get, there's an upstreaming process and a timeline and things that will have to happen. So we've been working on that for a very long time. We do a lot of contributions in the open source ecosystem. So I think we'll see what we need to see at the market in the right time, but it will be, like anything, users have to actually want those solutions and be willing to take it. And, that takes time.
Okay. Well, I'm very excited about this technology. I'm really excited to see where it goes. It was great sitting down with you and having a conversation. Again, chip level security, not something we talk enough about. So wonderful having that conversation with you. Thank you so much for joining us, Rebecca. And I'll keep an eye out